Welcome to Missouri Sports Talk. I'm your host, Cameron Staley, and today we've got some high school football predictions for Week 10. So this one will be pretty quick if we're going to be honest, We've got a really weak slate in the first round of the playoffs, and you guys may be saying, Cameron, what do you mean by that? You'll see. When we get to these past games, you will see. So as I bring up the 8-man scoreboard on my phone, it'll be up on your screen as well right now. So we'll start with New Heights and Drexel. Drexel was at home in this game. They end up winning 42-34. TJ Munter, 276 rushing yards, 1 touchdown, and 12 tackles. Lockwood versus Rich Hill, 66-20. Lockwood takes care of business quite easily. Slater versus Bramer, a little bit of the same. Bramer ends up winning this game 62-40. Jordan Haley, 446 passing yards, 8 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. Jordan now has the national record for passing touchdowns in a career. Congratulations, Mr. Haley. Paris versus Schuyler County. Paris ends up winning this one 56-24. Luke Inzer, 227 passing yards, 5 passing touchdowns. Platte Valley versus Rockport. Platte Valley ends up winning this game. I really didn't expect them to win it. Rockport was looking really good. So the Longhorns end up winning 32-20 in that game. Northwest versus Hardin Central. This one seemed to be quite good. I believe Hardin Central, they ended up winning this one 48-42 on the road. Great win for them. My stat here, Kalel Bowman for Hardin Central, 75 rushing yards, 81 receiving yards, and 4 total touchdowns. I think it was 2 on the ground and 2 through the air. So great game by him. For Class 1, we don't have very many stats, so we'll go through the scores first, and we'll round it off with our one-player stat. So, Milan, they end up beating Putnam County 28-22. I expect that one to be a little bit more of a gap. I actually took Stockton to win this game by like 27, so that ended up being a really terrible prediction, but Pierce City gets it done. Tipton, they beat South Callaway 46-12. This Tipton team is really good. Western, they end up winning 26-14. Brookfield, they win the Bell game on the road over Marceline 42-0. This was sort of along the lines of what I thought would happen. I actually took Brookfield by 18 in my predictions. They went by a lot more than that. And last Thursday, I was going to go to Van Far in Scotland County, had some things that I had to do, so I wasn't able to make it out to that. Van Far ends up winning this game at home 28-10. Tyson Douglas, 225 rushing yards. Pair that with a touchdown and 4 tackles on defense. So, great game. In Class 2, Kirksville down Centralia 41-12. Jace Kent ends up having 89 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 receptions, and 33 receiving yards. Lafayette County, they get it done quite easily, 48-12 at home. Pembroke Hill wins this game 43-26 over Class 4 Van Horn, so great win by them. Caruthersville, they win 42-20. East Buchanan at home ends up losing to Mid Buchanan. I believe I actually ended up taking East Buchanan. I took them to win by 7. They only score 3 points, so they actually will rematch here, I believe, in Week 11. As I've got a hair on my microphone. Hold on. There we go. Mid Buchanan wins 7-3. I don't really know what happened in that game. I wasn't there. I unfortunately wasn't able to get it around to watching any highlights, so I don't know if this was just a defensive slobber knocker or if it was really just the offense playing awful. And then the Class 2 game of the week, I was at this game, Fairgrove and Stratford. Both these teams played really solid. Stratford only able to put up 11 points. Fairgrove wins this game 26-11. But it wasn't because the offenses were awful in this game. It was that these defenses really were prevailing. It was such a fun game to watch. The scoreboard doesn't say that it was the most entertaining game in the world, but this is one of the better ones that I've covered all year. If you haven't watched those highlights, I 100% recommend to go back and watch those. In Class 3, Blair Oaks ends up getting it done 42-0. I'll shy away from too many comments about that game. Southern Boone, you guys know what you did. Just awful. Awful. Perryville, they end up beating Cuba 34-18. Made it kind of light work if we're going to be honest. Knob Noster, they lose at home to Holden 39-36. Holden sitting at 5-4 this season. It's a little bit rough, but I think they could win a game or two in the playoffs. Dexter versus Scott City. Dexter ends up winning this game 62-7. It was not close one bit. Dexter 9-0. Jack Graham's 191 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. St. Francis Borgia versus Osage seemed like, that's an interesting score. 24-0 is your final. Borgia beats Osage. Osage sitting at 7-2. Their only other loss is Blair Oaks. So, that's a pretty darn good team. I don't really know what happened in that game. Osage's offense has played really good this year. So, that's just a testament to Borgia being a really good football team this year. And Seneca, they beat Lamar 57-7. What is the last time Lamar lost by 50 points? If anybody knows, please drop that in the comments. What is the last time Lamar lost a football game by 50 points? That is crazy. I really don't know how that happened. Lamar's sitting at 5-4 this season. The Class 4 scoreboard from this past week, Warrenton, they beat Fort Zumwalt South 42-6, made it look light. Pleasant Hill at home, they end up winning this game 46-21 over Nevada. Holt loses at home 35-7 to Liberty. Liberty's really rolling right now. North Point finally gets back on track. I want to say they were 4-0 at one point, ended up losing 4 in a row. They get back on track, as I said, against St. Charles 35-22. Odessa, they beat Harrisonville 28-25. This is a good win for Odessa. They're getting back on track. I believe they had 3 straight losses, not quite 4 like we had with North Point, but Odessa 3 straight losses. I believe one of them was homecoming, one of them was senior night, and then another one was, I think it was a road game. So this was a really needed win for Odessa going into the playoffs. And St. Pius X, they win on the road over Savannah 49-21. That is a great win for the Warriors. I believe their only loss this season was to Rockhurst week 1, which is a really good Class 6 team. Both these teams are really good. For the Class 5 scoreboard from this past week, we saw a really great game between Cardinal Ritter and Lutheran North. It was like a 20-point lead for Lutheran North at one point. Ritter ends up storming back. They score with just under a minute left. They get the 2-point conversion. It's sitting at 50-48. Their kicker with an amazing kick. It's an onside recovery. Ritter drives all the way down to the 5, and it's a deflected ball, interception at the 5-yard line. Lutheran North seals it with a pick to win over the number 1 team in the state, Cardinal Ritter. Absolutely crazy game. Smithville on the road, they beat Winnetonka 43-7. Kind of what I was expecting there. I actually took Smithville by 35, so it was that 36-point win. Platte County, they end up taking care of Raytown 55-13. Hazelwood East, they looked really good against Parkway West. They ended up winning that game 48-7. Carthage, they make quick work of Neosho 42-20. And Helias, they only beat Live for Life by 5 points. That makes me nervous. I have no clue how that game was that close. I like Live for Life this year. I think they're a solid team. But I didn't think they were keep it close with Helias good. From what I heard, Live for Life was actually up 12-0 at one point. And, Helias ends up storming back and winning that game. So, actually, Helias' kicker hit the school record. I want to say it was 54 yards on a field goal. So, congratulations to him. Helias, they sneak out with a win in Week 9. In the Class 6 scoreboard, Blue Springs, they end up losing at home to Liberty North. Ryan Jensen with 9 tackles and 3 sacks for the Eagles. Lafayette, they make quick work of Marquette, 38-16. Jackson beats Festus at the pit. We expected that to happen. I actually took Jackson by 18. They win by a lot more than that, 43-7. Park Hill, they win by 30 points over Oak Park, 45-15. DeSmet, They end up winning this one in Illinois, 42-19. They're looking good. I actually have them still as my Class 6 state champions. I'm honestly really nervous about that because they've got a lot of good teams that they have to face in order to do that. But, I'm riding with them. I took them in the preseason. It just felt right to stick with them. And actually, who I took as my state runner-up, Lee Summit North. They went on the road over Lee Summit 36-28. Great game. That one that probably would have been a better game to go to, in all honesty, rather than Fairgrove. Like I said, Fairgrove was a great game. Estimated like 5,000 people there, which is absolutely crazy, especially for a Class 2 school. Whole entire town was there. So, that was a really fun game. And I do like to pick the games where I think the home team is going to win, if we're going to be honest. So, I did have Lee Summit North winning by 13 in that game, and they end up winning by 8 points. So, in technicality, since I like to pick the home team, probably wouldn't have been the good choice. If I thought Lee Summit was going to win, if I knew they were going to win, I probably would have gone to that game. Or if it was at Lee Summit North, I probably would have gone to that game. But, I definitely don't regret going to Fairgrove. I have to say that because I'm making it sound like I didn't really want to go. I was really excited to go to Fairgrove, and it was a great game. So, the part I dread, like I said at the start, we've got some pretty ugly games this week. I'll show you what I mean. Let's go ahead and put up the 8-man scoreboard on the screen. I'll just let you guys take a glance at the records right now. We'll start off with 7-2 Worth County playing 1-8 Stanberry. This game's not going to be close. I'm going to take Worth County by 42. St. Paul Lutheran versus Sweet Springs. I think Lutheran gets this one done by 28. Rich Hill versus Oshella. Oshella also 1-8. I will take Rich Hill by 22. Knox County versus Princeton. Really sad that, 3-6 hosting 2-7 is the third best game in 8-man this week. That's just how the first round is. I knew it was going to happen. This one, this is just kind of going to be a boring video, if we're going to be honest. Give me Knox County by 10 points. Mountain City versus Tarkio. This is 4-5 versus 4-5. I will take Mountain City by 8 points. And the 8-man game of the week, 5-4. I want to say it's 5-4 North Andrew versus 4-5 South Holt. I was high on South Holt going into this season. Not make it deep in the playoffs high, but thought that they'd be better than 4-5. This should be a fun game, and North Andrew does have their number. Since 2010, they're 7-0 against South Holt, so we will see if that continues. In Class 1, there's only 6 games this week. There's literally only 6 games. So I was in a little bit of a hole. We've got some real slobber knockers. If I go ahead and put this graphic up on your screen, you'll probably see in the bottom right, 1-7 for Ritas Christian Eagles versus 0-9 Louisiana Bulldogs. What a game. Give me the Eagles by 4. 2-7 Gallatin versus 0-9 Maysville. I'll take Gallatin by 18. Kabul versus Miller. 2 wins total in this game. There's only one of these teams with those 2 wins. I'll take Miller by 13. Crestridge versus Lynn, one of the better games this week. I will take Crestridge by 10. I don't know if that game's going to be really that entertaining. Russellville versus Cole Camp. Cole Camp is 0-9, so I don't know if this is going to be the most entertaining game. I will take Russellville by 21. And the Class 1 game of the week, Lincoln versus Skyline. There's 6 wins total in this game. Class 1 just kind of is a stinker this week. Class 2 scoreboard on your screen. We will start with Sherwood and Butler. As you can see on this, this is probably the most stacked class of the week. It's a very busy class this week. Least amount of buys, I want to say. So, Sherwood versus Butler. I think Butler wins this one on the road by 11. I will take Thayer over Clever by 17. Give me Scott City over East Prairie by 9 points. Ava versus Houston. This game happened earlier on in the season. Houston actually ended up winning this game. I think Ava's going to be able to get their revenge. Give me the Bears by 14. Centralia versus Carrollton. It should be a solid game. I believe Carrollton's 5-4. Yep, and Centralia is 6-3. So That's a solid game. It is going to be a solid game. So I will take Centralia by 6. Our Class 2 game of the week. Also, our Missouri Sports Talk game of the week. It has to be North Callaway versus South Callaway, another Callaway Cup game. I believe it was 20-8 in week 1 when these two teams played. The Thunderbirds ended up getting it done. Now they get to host South Callaway in the playoffs. In the first round of the playoffs, week 10, they played in week 1. Now they play in week 10. This is going to be a really fun game. I'm excited to be there. For the Class 3 scoreboard, we will start off with Live for Life versus Lutheran South. This one, I think it's not going to be that fun if we're going to be honest. Let's just go Live for Life with 16. Southern Boone versus California. I'll take Southern Boone by 13. This is going to be their last win of the season. Summit Christian versus University Academy. I don't see this game being close. I will take Summit Christian by 21 points. Cuba versus St. James. Now, St. James has really had Cuba's number these past few years, but I think Cuba ends up getting it done. I like them this year. They're 4-5. The past 3 years, they had 1 win in total. So, not counting this year. So, they turned it around in Cuba. I think they get their first playoff win in a very long time. Give me the Wildcats by 8 points. Cassville versus East Newton. This is another one where one team has had the number of the other. Cassville has had East Newton's number. East Newton got the win earlier in the regular season this year. I think they do it again. I think it's going to be a lot closer this time around, though. Give me East Newton winning once again by 3 points in the Class 3 game of the week. There's just nothing really crazy going on in Class 3, so I'm giving this to 6-3 Knob Noster versus 3-6 Eldon. It's a really solid district. Obviously the 1 seed Blair Oaks is gonna end up cakewalking it, but for terms of all the other teams in the district, it's gonna be fun watching all those guys compete. In the Class 4 scoreboard, we will start off with Perryville and Windsor in the bottom right. Perryville's 8-1, so I'm going to ride with them. I'll say Pirates by 19. Hannibal versus Holt. This game, even though Holt is 3-6, I think it'll be entertaining up until the end. I think the Pirates end up running away with this game. Give me Hannibal by 22. Nevada versus Raytown South. I like Nevada this year. I'll take them by 15. Westminster versus St. Charles. I will actually be at this game on Saturday, and then highlights will more than likely be up either Sunday or they'll be up Monday in the morning. I will end up taking Westminster in this game by 8 points. Kirksville versus Mexico. This game has already happened this year. Kirksville won that game 28-13. I think they win by a little bit more this time. Give me Kirksville by 20. I hope they win by more, though. And the Class 4 game of the week, it has to be Osage versus Fort Zumwalt South. This one's going to be fireworks. That district is crazy. It's got Warrenton, Osage, Fort Zumwalt South, Kirksville, Mexico, Hannibal, and Holt. That may be the toughest district in Class 4. For the Class 5 scoreboard, we'll start with Rockwood Summit and Parkway South. I don't know if that game will necessarily be that close. I will take Summit by 24. I will take Grain Valley over Ruskin by 21. Give me Neosho over Raytown by 12 points. I will take Farmington over Poplar Bluff by 17. I think that game, in all honesty, that could probably be a lot closer than what I just said. If I'm not wrong, the Mules may have actually won earlier on this season. I think Farmington is just playing better right now than the Mules are. So give me Farmington. Washington versus Parkway West will be a fun game up in St. Louis. St. Louis area, I should say, obviously is in Washington. I will take Washington. I'll take the home team by 9 points. And the Class 5 game of the week, it has to be Rolla versus Camdenton. This was, second place for which game I was going to. It was either going to be I was going to North Callaway or I was going to Rolla. So this one will end up being a pretty fun game. In the Class 6, it's kind of weak, if we're going to be honest. Hickman, a local team, they're being featured for the first time this season. So that's fun, right? That's fun. Pattonville versus Hazelwood West is where we'll start. This game is not going to be fun. I'll take Hazelwood West by 1 point. It'll probably end up being like 14-13 or something like that. Park Hill South hosting Staley. I think Staley gets it done by 14. Northwest versus Oakville. I think Oakville gets it done on the road by 10 points. Hickman versus Francis Howell Central. Neither of these teams are absolutely stellar. You know, Hickman started off the season awful. They were so bad to start the season, and now something's clicking. They're 4-5 now. You know, after that loss to Elias, I won't say how many points they let up. I think if you know, you know. That's what we'll go with there. It was rough, but they're 4-5 now. They're playing 3-6 Howell Central. Both these teams, you know, they're in need of a playoff win. I think overall Hickman will end up being able to get this one done by 2 points. Marquette versus Vianney. This is another one. Both these teams need a win. Marquette is in a little bit less of a need than in all these past 4 teams that I've said, because Marquette's been good these past few years, but they're having a down year. They're 4-5. They played some pretty tough teams, and they're losing. I think they end up beating Vianney by 16. And the Class 6 game of the week, it'll be Lindbergh versus Fox. These two teams, they like to play each other, and they play each other hard. So that's just the obvious pick for the Class 6 game of the week. But that's all we got for today. That was probably a really short video, so I'm sorry. Like I said, this is just a pretty awful slate, if we're going to be honest. Next week, it'll be a little bit better. I think I may end up starting to increase my high school coverage as well starting next week, so stay tuned for that. This has been Missouri Sports Talk. See you next time.